Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can everybody hear me? Great. We have a bigger group today, so if you'd like, you can keep your sound off, but then feel free to just turn it back on and chime in whenever you like. We'll just try to avoid a lot of background noise since we have a larger group today. Hi, everybody. All right, we're going to give everyone a couple minutes to shuffle in. I'll go ahead and start our slide presentation. I have a little assignment for us before we get started. I'm admitting a few more people. Hi, everybody. Welcome if you're just joining the room. All right, I'm going to give everybody just a couple more minutes to slide on in here. And in the meantime, go ahead and open up your chat box. And I know this one's a bit of a cliche, but I bet everybody has an answer ready. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Go ahead and enter that in the chat box just as we're waiting for everybody to finish coming in. If you don't know where your chat box is, you can hover usually over the top and you'll see a bunch of options come up. You'll see the one that says chat. Still waiting on just a couple more people to come in. Okay, you guys are funny. Never have to wait in traffic. I second that one. Teleportation, mind reading, awesome. Predicting winners of football games. That's really funny. My husband, I know nothing about football, not a clue. My husband loves it. He asks me every single game if I can predict the winner, and I have a pretty good track record. I'm pretty good. I don't know it's a superpower level yet, but I'm proud. Oh, wow, Kate, taking it deep. The infinitely regenerative powers of a flowering perennial. Yes. Healing. Awesome, Mark. I got a couple more people joining us. And Swati, I would want that when I touch my patients or people who I talk to, they could see what will be the consequences of the choices they make, be it a health choice or anything. That's a good one. I guess that's a little bit like ability to see the future. Now that I'm sitting here with that, Swati, I'm thinking, oh gosh, then I'd have to see it too. And oh, that would be a hard one. That would be a hard superpower to hold for people. All right, if you're just joining us, we're just pulling up the chat box while everybody's filing in. If you could have any superpower, what would it be is our icebreaker question today. It will tie back in, I promise, to the work that we'll be doing together this January. I'm going to give everybody just 1 or 2 more minutes. And if you're just joining in, because we have a larger group today, go ahead and put yourself on mute so that we can't hear the background noise. But then if you ever want to chime in and say anything at all, just take your sound off and you can just talk. You don't have to put things in the chat box. 2 more people joining us. Welcome, Daniel and Catherine. Oh, Catherine, you've been in here. Who else just joined? Somebody else did. Great. Miriam, wonderful. Welcome back, Miriam. So happy you made it this time. So if you're just joining on, I'm inviting everybody to turn themselves on mute today, just because we have a larger group, and then just take yourselves off mute and talk freely anytime you want to. We're getting started with a little icebreaker in the chat box. A little cliche, but I promise it's going to circle back around. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? We've had some interesting ones already. If you can't find your chat box, wave at me or holler at me and I'll help you find it. All right, guys, it's 5 past the hour. Let's get started. Welcome to the January Narrative Medicine Workshop. We've got a lot of old friends and new friends here, so I figured we might just take a moment to regroup about this weird thing that we're doing every month called narrative medicine. And I thought maybe I could invite someone who has come to these workshops a lot, who thinks they have a handle on what narrative medicine is or has done for them, to offer a definition. Any ideas, any working definitions of what narrative medicine is or what narrative medicine does? Feel free to just take yourself off mute and talk.
May I?
Please, I'd love it.
Okay. So for me, narrative medicine has definitely helped me helped uh, me have much more joy at work, and has made my work life way better than it had been, and given it a lot more meaning. Um, uh, yeah, I suppose that's big. I mean, that's a big thing that it's done for me. It's given my work an awful lot more meaning for me, and much more enjoyable.
Wonderful, Miriam. Thank you so much. That's all we could hope for. And how we hope to do that, how we hope to bring joy and meaning to work is by inviting you into a creative practice and ultimately inviting you into a listening practice. What we're going to be doing today, we're going to be sitting with a wonderful poem by one of my favorite poets, Jane Hirshfield. And as we close read this poem together, we're going to practice some listening skills. And these listening skills, you may notice, uh, start to influence the way you listen if you have a clinical practice or just in your personal life with your family or your friends. If you do this kind of work enough, you start to notice you listen a little more attuned, a little more attentively. Um, and we're going to be doing some reflective writing today. So I'm hoping whatever we learn from Jane Hirshfield, we will also be able to rub up against our own lives and see if there's any cross-pollination that happens, any new stories, new epiphanies that might emerge that help us think about our own professional or personal lives in different ways by seeing stories through someone else's lens, today through Jane Hirshfield's lens. So thank you everybody for coming. We're going to start out with just a little bit on Jane Hirshfield herself. She is a very well-known poet, award-winning essayist, translator. She has 10 collections of poetry, 2 collections of essays, and she has edited and co-translated 4 books collecting the work of world poets, specifically women poets. Hirshfield's work encompasses a large range of influences, drawing from the sciences as well as literary, intellectual, artistic, and spiritual traditions. This is a fact I did not know about Jane that I really loved learning about her. After graduating from Princeton as a member of her university's first graduating class to include women, she put aside her writing for nearly 8 years to study at the San Francisco Zen Center. She said, "I felt that I'd never make much of a poet if I didn't know more than I knew at the time about what it means to be a human being. I don't think poetry is based just on poetry. It's based on a thoroughly lived life." In recent decades, she's also become increasingly known as a poet working at the intersection of poetry, the sciences, and the crisis of the biosphere. She writes wonderful eco-poetry. She's been a poet in residence at both the H.J. Andrews Experimental Forest in Oregon and a neuroscience research program at UCSF, which sounds like pretty much the coolest job and the coolest nexus ever. Um, and yeah, that's the lovely Jane Hirshfield. We're going to be diving into her poem, which felt really appropriate to me, given this is going to be our first workshop of the new year. But it was just very appropriate for me where I am personally in my life right now. And the way sometimes we struggle to see where we have power at all. And this poem hit me in that place. So I hope that it meets you in that same place where you live too. Would anybody, can everybody read this clearly? I do have a separate screen if you'd like me to pull it up. Shout at me right now if you want me to pull up a different screen.
It'd be great. It's a bit hard to read, but that could be me.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
It is, it is small print there.
I have a separate screen ready to go. Hang on one second. Let me just pull it up. Okay. Okay. This should be a little bit easier to read. Can you guys see the poem? Okay, great. All right, so I'm just going to scroll as someone reads. Can I have one volunteer to read it aloud? Just shout out if you say, pick me.
I would be glad to read it.
Yay, Kim, I would love that.
Can you scroll back down to the title?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, great.
Counting this New Year's morning, what powers yet remain to me. The world asks, as it asks daily, and what can you make, can you do to change my deep, broken, fractured? I count this first day of another year, what remains. I have a mountain, a kitchen, two hands. Can admire with two eyes the actual recalcitrant shuffling, its pebbles sheltering foxes and beetles. Can make black-eyed peas and collards. Can make from last year's late ripening persimmons a pudding. Can climb a stepladder, change the bulb in a track light. For 4 years, I woke each day first to the mountain, then to the question. The feet of the new sufferings followed the feet of the old, and still they surprised. I brought salt, brought oil to the question, brought sweet tea, brought postcards and stamps. For 4 years, each day something. Stone did not become apple. War did not become peace. Yet joy still stays joy. Sequins still stay sequins. Words still bespangle, bewilder. Today, I woke without an answer. The day answers, unpockets a thought from a friend. Don't despair of this failing world, not yet. Didn't it give you the asking?
Oh, man, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask for one more person to read this through so we get two good reads. And while everybody is listening this time, I'd like you to think of or write in the chat box an image or phrase that is really interesting to you. We'll be talking about those next. Can I have one more volunteer to read?
I'll read, Kate.
Yay, thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Beautiful poem. On New Year's morning, what powers yet remain to me? The world asks, as it asks daily, and what can you make, can you do to change my deep, broken, fractured? I count this first day of another year, what remains. I have a mountain, a kitchen, two hands. Can admire with two eyes the mountain, actual, recalcitrant, shuffling its pebbles, sheltering foxes and beetles. Can make black-eyed peas and collards, can make from last year's late ripening persimmons a pudding. Can climb a stepladder, change the bulb in a track light. For 4 years, I woke each day first to the mountain, then to the question. The feet of the new sufferings followed the feet of the old, and still they surprised. I brought salt, brought oil to the question, brought sweet tea, brought postcards and stamps. For 4 years, each day, something. Stone did not become apple. War did not become peace. Yet joy still stays joy. Sequence stays sequence. Words still bespangle, bewilder. Today, I woke without answer. The day answers, unpockets a thought from a friend. Don't despair of this falling world. Not yet. Didn't it give you the asking?
So beautiful. Thank you, guys. So what images, phrases, ideas were interesting to you here? I'm seeing a couple from Mark. I have a mountain, a kitchen, 2 hands. Yeah, what's interesting about that to you, Mark? You can go ahead and just say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, it's a remote thing, mountain, that you don't literally possess. You
Right.
literally have a kitchen. And then 2 hands becomes very personal. And furthermore, she then goes on from that to talk about the mountain, about what she does in the kitchen, what she does with her hands. And that's kind of repeated for, I think, another few stanzas after that. Um, first to the mountain, then to the question. Feet of the new suffering. Okay, that doesn't quite continue the pattern, but you kind of see how those 3 items are, from remote to very intimate, and then carried through into the following portion.
Oh, that's a great observation. It's like it's getting closer and closer. Like I have the mountain, I have the world that I can see outside my window. Then I have this kitchen that I'm in. So it goes from outside to inside. And then it goes into her own body. Then I have these 2 hands. So it's getting even more personal. That's a great observation. What else? Kyler, stone did not become an apple. What's interesting about that to you?
I thought it had this really great juxtaposition between like sadness and joy. Because obviously, stone is not meant to nourish us. It's never going to be that. But still kind of appreciating it for what it is. And peace doesn't come. Like there are many things that don't get better, and don't become sources of joy, but the joy of kind of being alive and being able to cope with that in other ways, I think is like a nice message for me at least.
Tyler, that's so beautifully said. I hear a kind of a tone of acceptance in that. Stone is never going to nourish us. It's just stone, like the mountain. It's just a mountain. It has its own ecosystems and lives that it takes care of, but it's never going to nourish us. So you said that there's a way to cope there. And it seems to come from this tone of acceptance. Do you agree, or do you hear a different tone?
Yeah, I think yeah, maybe acceptance, or maybe just a, I don't know, like the natural thing is nourishing the natural things.
Mm,
And even though we are removed from that, um, the world kind of goes on. Like it's the ending of, at least it offered you the question, at least it offered you the possibility to do something. You can't change the world, you can't fix the world.
mm.
But at least every day you wake up, there's this sort of question of like, what can you do? You can't do everything, but there are some things you can do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What can you do? Anybody else? Does anybody have an interesting thing that they noticed about what the speaker can do?
I was interested in, I brought salt, brought oil to the question, brought sweet tea, brought postcards and stamps. On first glance, I read salt, oil, and tea. I read salt and oil as ingredients, something that the speaker could cook with, and then tea, something that you could drink or that would nourish you. So at first glance, salt, oil, and tea seemed all to be part of the same category, but then postcards and stamps made me reconsider salt and oil. It can put salt in a wound. Uh, Salt can heal something. Oil can function as a balm or an ingredient. Um, Oil can lubricate something. It could lubricate the question, soften the question. Salt can cure the question. A cure, not in the sense of curing an injury, but like curing meat, preserve. And then that wonderful pivot to postcards and stamps, as if to say, come on, question, deliver. What do you have to say to me? I wanna send it on out. Doesn't have to be a letter, could just be a postcard. Yeah, so just noticing that.
Great. Jason also honed in on that phrase. I brought oil to the question. And Jason felt like it was an offering. Do you wanna chime in here, Jason, and tell us about what you thought of that phrase?
Yeah, so the first time I heard it in the sense of like delivering it. So she physically brought salt and brought oil to like the altar of the question in that sense. That's the first time I heard it. And then it's the balance between the simplicity of those ingredients, even though like the oil isn't explicit what kind of oil it is, but it is simplistic in a way. And the question in the top of the poem is quite complex. So I like the tension or the balance between that. And if I then read a little bit further about the for 4 years each day something part, then it's once again the tension between the simplicity of the salt and the oil compared to doing what I read as chores for 4 years.
What you read as chores?
Yeah. So I read the full part as doing chores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I see that too. And I really like how the way you're looking at it and the way Kate's looking at it are very different and yet the same. Because you're looking at this question as an offering, an altar, you said, which I think is such a beautiful way to see it. Almost like at the first time I read it, I kind of thought of like, that old story of the three wise men bringing the frankincense and the myrrh, like they're trying to bring something to this thing. And it just happens to be oil. It just happens to be salt. And so, but in bringing it to the altar, what is she doing? She's doing just her daily life, her just doing her chores. So there's an interesting blend between the mundane and the divine. And then Kate is saying that these are also, it could be ingredients. So it's as if the speaker is trying to do something with them to activate the question, or to make it into something that could actually be, let's actually return to what the question is. And what can you make? Can you do to change my deep, broken, fractured? So she's literally maybe trying to make something with it. But there's a frustration there, the come on, deliver, that Kate says. So I think it's so interesting that in both of your observations, there's a tension between the effort and this kind of the angst of the mundane, the divine and the daily. So and I feel that tension kind of bubbling throughout the rest of the poem too. What other things did you guys find interesting here? Miriam is really honing in on the speaker, and I love that. Let's talk about that. She says the speaker is quite independent and practical. What else do you guys think about this speaker? And maybe Miriam, you could get us started off with who you think this speaker is and why.
Well, I suppose for me, I suppose I'm presuming that the speaker is her. I'm presuming the speaker is the author herself, or, um, uh, but what struck me is, I mean, it's quite a different. It's certainly so different from the lives that we would live here in Ireland, you know. I mean, it's very, very rustic and all the, um, uh, but I love the sounds like shuffling its pebbles and it's very, and of course you were saying about just eco poetry, so it comes across so strongly like sheltering foxes and beetles and uh, she talks about the step ladder and putting out a track and changing a bulb in a track light. She just comes across so independent to me, but it's a real earthy existence. It's not like, you know, the way sometimes poems can be kind of very spiritual. This is very earthy, and but I love the imagery in it.
Mm. Yeah, so our speaker here is very earthy, very independent, very connected to, very present to where she is. What else
Yeah.
about the speaker? Any other ideas?
I
It's
feel that
somewhat,
the
go ahead.
okay, thank you. So, hello everyone. This is my first time joining in on this session, so I might be a little naive, but then I think that the speaker is really experienced
Mm.
from what I can see because she is independent and might be her husband is out on a war, he is there fighting, and that's the reason why she's so independent and talking about the oils and then a postcard and a stamp maybe she's writing to her, and that is why she's having that deep understanding of war and peace and everything that is going on to refer the world as the deep, broken, and fractured.
Oh,
So it's like no matter what she does every day, waking up, contributing to the world around her, she is not able to mend that. So that is the frustration that I'm sensing. Like no matter whatever she does, it is not going to change what is happening all around. So this might be a way to look at it.
wow, I love that. I love that interpretation. So, so we're looking at specifically the this stanza here. Stone did not become apple, war did not become peace.
Peace.
And rather than that just being a, you know, a generic way of saying, you know, and yet, you know, the world is, you know, still a mix of good and bad. You're saying she's very specific with her words. War did not
Mhm.
become peace because war is really the background of this poem. And
Yeah.
maybe the reason she's so alone. Oh, wow. What an interesting reading. Thank you so much for that, Swati. And that, oh, that just makes that ending so much more profound for me. Don't despair of this falling world. Not yet.
And I think the speaker is clearly an older person.
Okay.
When you talk about what powers remain to me, you ain't no teenager. You think you have all the powers in the world. Um,
Right.
and this first day of another year, it's another year. My God, you know, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing fine. I have powers that remain to me, but it's another year. And that goes on in several other things, you know, that convey a sense of uh, experience, if you will, or advancing age.
Mm. What else? What else tunes you into the experience of advancing age?
Um, you know, the sense of joy still stays joy, sequence stays sequence. You know, there's a persistence that is earned from being around a long time to make an observation like that.
Right. And I love that word, persistence. I'm always kind of in pursuit of the tone of a poem and how it changes. And I feel a persistence in the tone here too. So thank you for that word. Great. Yeah.
Like, I thought that was a really interesting read about the age, the possible age of the speaker. I saw the speaker as ageless, the references to remaining being what remains of the world, given the damage that we have done to it. And that could be true of any inhabitant of the world, that we have whatever remaining time we have, regardless of what age we are. It's I read it as what remains of the world pass.
Let me find the actual stanza that you're talking about. Where is the bit with the remains?
Well, it's in the title. On New Year's morning, what
got
power
it.
yet remain to me could mean what yet remain to me in my lifetime if I'm a person who's been around for a while, or it could be what powers yet remain to me given the damage and the destruction that we have wreaked on the. And then it's in the third line of the poem. The world asks as it asks daily. It's from the world's perspective. What can you make? What can you do to change my deep broken, fractured? The world is deep broken and fractured. And I count this first day of another year. What remains? What remains? What remains that I could possibly do, not just in my lifetime, but in the lifetime, the life cycle of the planet, is what I was trying to say.
Oh, I love those two perspectives at once here in this poem, you know, because I agree. This is at the same in the same poem, we have something that seems fiercely personal to this speaker that we now know as independent and earthy and persistent and resilient and all of these words that we've used to describe her. But then we also have the perspective of a more global speaker, of the world itself. That I agree with you, Kate. This poem seems like it is written from and to anyone, because it describes an experience we could all have. And I love how both of those things coexist in the same poem. Great observations, you guys. I'm interested in the form of this poem too. Does anybody notice anything about the form? Anything interesting just about how it's written on the page as a visual art?
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, firstly, I think the title is it's so long, and it's and that's interesting to me in the first place. I kept having to look and I wrote it down so I could remind myself what it actually was. And then I guess when you look at it just simply on the page, there's italics, there's ordinary word, there's the words are written in ordinary type, then there's italics, then there's kind of couplets, I guess.
Mhm.
There's 2 lines. A lot of the poem is written in 2 lines. And then, as I think Miriam noticed at the beginning, like some of the lines seem as if they're not finished. For example, what can you do to change my deep, broken, fractured question mark?
Mhm.
So you wonder, should there be a word there? Like, what is my deep, broken, fractured what? World, or, do you know what I mean? At the very beginning, the first question,
Right.
the second line.
Yeah, that question is in italics. And then we have at the end
It's in italics.
italics as well. Yeah, and I apologize, guys. As Catherine was talking, I realized the screen wasn't expanded to show enough to show how the poem itself was lineated. So this is the actual lineation. I apologize for the mistake. As Catherine has noticed, it is mostly in these couplets, except for, the odd single line. And then we have the italics in in the second line of the first stanza or the first couplet, and in these last 2 lines. What do you guys make of that? Why do you think the speaker has chosen this form?
It's a kind of the last italic sentence. It's a kind of answer to the first one. It's the question, and then it's the answer. Don't despair. I see it like that.
Yeah. So it harkens back to that first question and in a sense provides an answer. But I'm a little suspicious of the word answer too, because she said, today I woke without answer. The day answers and pockets a thought from a friend.
Like more like a conclusion, more like a, I don't know, answer in the sense of having an idea, not like I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Answer in the sense of an idea rather than a conclusion, like something that you can tie a bow on. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Or like the answer can be that you don't need to have an answer. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else see it differently about this?
So I think that the last two lines are trying to reinforce the fact that whatever we talked about in the poem, it does not really matter because we are talking about it because the world gave us that asking. So it does not matter what is happening with it because the world gave us an asking and we could think about it. That's what is important and not what is going on around. So it should be flowing.
Beautiful, Swati. Thank you so much. I love that interpretation. That the answer doesn't matter. It's the question that matters. The fact that
Exactly.
But
And
also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Julia.
no, please.
Well, also perhaps it's such a big thing to be tasked with answering a question for the world every day. The world asks, what can you make? What can you do to change my deep, broken, fractured? And then at the end, when the poem goes to single lines, today I woke without answer, there is a possible sense of failure there. I wasn't able to answer the world's question. And then my friend, the day, unpockets a thought, just one day at a time, as they say. I don't have to be able to answer all the world's big questions or fix all the hurt, but not yet. It gave me the asking, and maybe if I just keep asking one day at a time, I will make my way somehow.
Beautiful. I agree. I agree. And I think Kate is really wise to point out that feeling of that brief little tone of failure. You know, I tried for 4 years. I brought things to this question. I brought it, my offerings, my dailiness. I brought it, you know, my ingredients. I tried to make, I tried to do. And today I woke without answer, but the day answers. Unpockets a thought from a friend. And I think it's especially interesting that it's not just that the day answers and unpockets a thought I had yesterday, but unpockets a thought from a friend. That somehow we get more askings and more potential answers that fit the askings from each other. From the friends that, you know, we sit with their ideas, like we sit right here with each other's ideas. And then I'm sure for hours, days after this call, you'll be unpocketing each other's ideas. And maybe we get little epiphanies from it too, little gifts. Maybe even more questions, which is, I think what this poem is saying is even better.
I just wanted to share an observation. So growing up in the southern USA, I really connected with all of the traditions of eating black-eyed peas and collard greens on New Year's Day for good luck. And being able to mention persimmons, like most people, if they're not Southerners, would never had a persimmon pudding, and the sweet tea. And what I connected with it from my childhood was that Sunday lunch around the grandmother's table, where there was a always overflowing abundance of sweet tea growing up, and that feeling of like childlike just unawareness of the big world outside that had all these issues. And then now I kind of see like the isolation. She may be in the South, but a lot of the South is kind of flat. So I feel like she's not in the South being at this mountain. but that's just an assumption. And so she's like away from family, home, and community, and she's trying to ground this new year with what she's done every year, like her whole childhood, her whole life, to eat these black-eyed peas together. But now she's alone, and so I feel like she's lost that connection and community. And so now, at the end, there's that reconnecting to other people, unpocketing the thought from a friend. So she's had that connection, which has then brought her back into that feeling of that sweet feeling, I guess is what I would call it. Like the world is all going to be okay because we're going to sit around together and drink sweet tea. That's my Southern perspective on it.
I love it, Kim. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't mention sweet tea in a poem and not evoke the South. And yet we have mountains here. So unless they're somewhere in Tennessee, which maybe they are, regardless of the location, the feeling of displacement and subtle loss, I feel that as I read it too. That I mean, the question, what remains, that we've been talking about, I also see that as like, well, what's left? What do I have left here? After all the things that have gone, or maybe all the things that I've lost or the world has lost. But there's a clear to me sense of that loss and displacement, and yet still trying to salvage, still trying to protect what still remains. And maybe the impossibility of doing that, the impossibility of protecting what remains. And in the end, all that remains is the beauty of the question, the beauty of the asking. Really wonderful noticing about all of these location signifiers. I think place is something that we pay too little attention to in a poem, and you've really drawn it out, Kim. Thank you. Any
Just have any ideas about the significance, the specificity of 4 years? I find that very compelling and mysterious.
Totally.
It's a political term of service. That's what I thought of.
Whoa, that's good. I like that interpretation a lot. I mean, as I'm sitting with this, it does beg the question, what happened 4 years ago that made you start this practice of waking to the mountain and then to the question? Why did you ask this question exactly 4 years ago? And I do like the interpretation of maybe some political shift as an answer to that. But I also think if I'm going to resist answer and just kind of keep the question open, maybe it doesn't have to be a specific thing, but just the observation that some sort of watershed moment has happened for this speaker years ago that she's still struggling with, and this is the fallout of that. And maybe we don't need to know what it is because this is the poem about the fallout, but there is something that happened that she's not putting a name on. And that brings, I mean, Swati's idea of a potential, some sort of war in the background, maybe Kim's idea of being displaced as she is moving away from her roots. I mean, there could be a million things, but something discrete has happened that made all of this necessary for her.
Would it make any difference if she used 3 years or 5 years? I don't think it would. I think there's a graspable interval that's involved, but I don't particularly see much attachment to 4 specifically. I mean, it's not 100 years, it's not 2 weeks, but it's otherwise, I think, not necessarily that important. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
It's just a
that's
long
how it
time
felt to me.
to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a long time, I woke each day.
It's so interesting that she repeats it twice. Whatever it is, whatever watershed moment it is, or landmark event, she says it twice. And the first time she says it, for 4 years, I woke each day first to the mountain, then to the question. For me, metaphorically, the mountain is symbolic of what is. There's this great behemoth, this great massive thing. It's the stone part of stone did not become apple. And then to the question, which is what could be. So that reads to me as, for 4 years, I woke each day to what is, and then to what could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. And the tension between what is and what could be, or what my place in what is the tension that propels the rest of the poem. Where do you see the 4 years twice?
It's at the beginning of that stanza, for 4 years I woke each day, and then go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, the postcards and stamps for 4 years, each day
Oh,
something.
there it is. You're absolutely right. Right there. So once and twice. Yes, what now I'm swayed that it's not just for a long time. It's a very particular amount of time.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't notice that either, but mentioning it twice now makes me think that it is kind of important.
Right? Now I'm going to have to, usually when we do narrative medicine workshops, we don't encourage or do a lot ourselves, background context on a poem to find out answers, because we really welcome a lot of different interpretations, as long as they're grounded in the material details of the text, not something that's, often left field with mushrooms, but something that's actually in the words and ideas of the text itself. But this is really inspiring me to do my research on this one. If I can find anything out, I'll let you know. But I like your thoughts there, Kyler, that maybe this is a more political poem than we originally anticipated. We're looking for an eco poem. There's something else happening. I mean, the two are very combined.
Either that or 4 years of undergraduate education.
I would also like to point out here, like she speaks about can admire with two eyes the mountain. She is admiring the mountain, but then she's also talking about that the mountain is resistant to change, but then it's constantly shuffling its pebble. So there is a change, but it's still resistant to change. And then it's talking about sheltering foxes and beetles. So from my knowledge, foxes eat beetles. So
Ooh.
it's kind of harboring both of them, like foxes and beetles cohabiting the place, and then it's changing and it's still resistant to change. So mountain can also be symbolic of something different. What the poet is referring to. I think so.
Great interpretation. Now I'm starting to see her as the mountain, or the speaker as the mountain, resistant to change, and yet shuffling her pebbles, doing what she can to shelter the things around her, yeah. The mountain can be both what is that the speaker cannot change and the parts of herself that cannot change too. So interesting. Thank you so much for that. So happy to have you here, Swati. You're such a great addition to our little group. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So before we shift actually into some of our reflective writing, are there any last thoughts on the poem? Anything else that you guys want to share? Just about how it landed with you or made you feel?
I thought it was also interesting that the very last line is a question, but there's not a question mark.
Yeah.
So it's almost like only the first question is what matters. Like nothing else, even if it is a question, is not like phrased, it's not punctuated like that.
Absolutely. And it's open-ended. You might have as well end with like an ellipsis, like it's an open door to the asking, you know. Yeah. It's a question that is not a question about a question. So interesting. Great observation, Kyler. Thank you so much. All right, friends, we're going to move into some writing. For those of you who have not done this with us before, we're going to do a free write for 5 minutes. I'm going to give you a prompt in just a second. After I give you the prompt, you will just put pen to page for 5 minutes. Do not write well, or at least do not try to. I know many of you can't help but write brilliantly. But don't worry about sounding clever, I think is what I'm trying to say. Just get words on the page. At the 5 minute mark or just before, I'll give you a little warning that we'll have a little time left. We will put our pencils down, and then we will share our writing in some breakout groups. Since we have a larger plenary group this time, I'm going to have somebody volunteer to share with the whole group so that we can get an example of what listening and reflecting is like before we send you off into breakout rooms. Do be aware that I want this to be an experiment. So if something comes up in your writing that you're like, oof, I don't want to share this with a group, totally fine. Keep writing it. Keep writing about it. You never have to share anything you don't want to. I'll give you another prompt that you can use just to talk about with your group if that is the case. So I'd like everybody to pull out a pen and paper or an open page on their laptop, whatever works best. Do make sure that your sound is off for this section. And I'm going to stop this share and go back to my slideshow so that I can pull up our prompt. Oops. Okay. All right, I give you 2 writing prompts to choose from this time, and take a moment to decide which one you'd like before you start writing. Either, what is the world asking you? Or, count the powers that remain to you. Either, what is the world asking you? Or, count what powers remain to you. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes, beginning right now. Go ahead and write. About 30 seconds left. All right, go ahead and put your pencils down. Oh, sorry, everybody. Rude awakening. Go ahead and put your pencils down. I find that even if you're not finished with your last thought, wherever you are is exactly where it was supposed to be. So just finish up wherever you are. We are going to start out with a volunteer. Is anybody okay with reading theirs to the group? You can just say, pick me.
I can do that.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. Whenever you're ready, you can, well, actually, was that Swati that said that? I didn't see the,
Yeah.
okay, great. Yay, I'm so glad Swati. Okay, so before Swati reads, for those of you who are here for the first time, we are going to give Swati the same attentive listening that we gave Jane Hirshfield. We're going to be listening for words, phrases, ideas that are helpful or interesting or give us a sense of meaning. We are going to reflect those ideas back to her at the end. And Swati, for you, no need to say anything else other than exactly what's on the page. You don't need to preface with what you meant to say or, how it could have turned out better or differently. Just read the words on the page.
Okay.
And then, of course, everybody agrees that anything shared here in this plenary group or in breakout rooms stays here. Everybody cool with that? Give me a thumbs up. Great, thank you so much. All right, Swati, whenever you're ready, take it away.
So English is my second language, so pardon me. The prompt that I chose is, what is the world asking you? So in Indian mythology, the world is I and I is the world. And scientifically talking, both are made of the same matter. So the question, what is the world asking you? It is asking me to be who I am, love what I do, chase what I dream of, and live the way I want to. In my narrative, I is the world. So it is asking me to make the world a place I would love to live and thrive. The world is asking me this question constantly. Are you ready to do what it takes? Be the change you want to be? To make this world less broken, a little less fractured? And my answer remains yes.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Thank you so much. All right. Can you read it for us one more time? This time, slow down just a little bit. Whenever you're ready, one more time.
All right. What is the world asking you? In Indian mythology, the world is I is the world. Scientifically, both are made of the same matter. So the question, what is the world asking you? It is asking me to be who I am, love what I do, chase what I dream of, and live the way I want to. In my narrative, I is the world. So it is asking me to make the world a place where I would love to live and thrive. The world is asking me this question constantly. Are you ready to do what it takes? Be the change you want to be? To make this world less broken, a little less fractured, and my answer remains a yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What did you guys notice? Words, phrases, ideas that were interesting?
One thing I noticed right off the bat, thank you so much, Swati, for reading, was I believe the word you used was mythology in the beginning, and then scientifically. Were those the two? It's so interesting that your whole piece of writing came out of putting those two things together. They can often be set up as oppositional to one another, and right from the get-go, you merged them, and there was this beautiful, rich um, uh, result from merging them. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.
I just want to piggyback on that really quickly, because not only is it merging Indian mythology and science, but how the two of them actually later on become my narrative. In Indian myth, the world is I and I is the world. Scientifically, both are made of the same matter. In my narrative, I is the world. So in a sense, it's they're coming together through you, through story, through your particular story. I loved how you were kind of the alembic through which all of these things come together and through which change is made. And I also loved all of the the little nods, the shadows of the poem here. Are you ready to make the world less broken, a little less fractured? Even that last line, the remains in it, my answer remains a yes. And it's the remains is slightly different than the way Hirshfield was using it, because it's almost as if this speaker is adding on to Hirshfield's poem that it's not just the asking that remains, it's the will to say yes that remains here too. So I really loved that last line. What other thoughts did you guys have?
I
I,
loved the
oh,
um,
sorry.
identity that was expressed in um uh for me to be who I am, love what I do, chase what I dream, live the way I want to. That was so powerful to me, to have that such a strong connection with the earth or the world, that you know your place in it and you know how you're supposed to proceed to express that identity in the world. That is just a beautiful confidence and certainty in that.
Great. I think one other person. Yes, Catherine.
Yeah. I thought that was beautiful, Swati, really lovely. And I suppose for me, the question, what is the world asking you? It's such an enormous question. It's like really existential, and you were able to kind of make it really simple and accessible in a really beautiful way. So that was really stand out for me. It was lovely. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. So you guys get the idea now through this wonderful example that Swati has given us of what it looks like to share. And then, so again, the etiquette of sharing, don't say anything except the words on the page. And then the etiquette of listening is to hone in on those words and phrases and the details of the text, but also just how it lands in you, how tell the speaker how it made you feel. We're going to break out, we're going to go into breakout rooms now. I'm going to make these breakout rooms a little bit larger than they typically are. We're going to have 3 people per breakout room. If there's anyone who really can't stay for breakout, let me know now in the chat box so that I won't include you in it. But even if you could just stay just to listen, I would love it if we could get these bigger breakout rooms going. All right, so here we go, breakout rooms. And I'm just going to assign them automatically. So we'll see what happens. I didn't see anybody who said that they couldn't join. So we're going to have 3 breakout rooms. So there'll be 3 to 4 people in each one. We are going to have a full, let's call it 16 minutes for this. So 4 to 5 minutes per person, depending on how many people are in your room. I'll give you guys a little heads up. Well, actually, you know what? I should assign them manually so that Swati can be in the 4-person group. So that way each person will have 5 minutes. And Swati, you can just listen and reflect this time. So I will assign manually. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And great. All right. So Swati, you can just listen in. Everybody is. Welcome back, everybody. So I just posted a little question to the group. I don't know if it actually appeared in your breakout room. So it's kind of a new question that we've not considered before. So if anybody would like to respond to it, you're welcome to. If you don't have a response, that's fine. What did you learn from sharing or reflecting that helped you understand yourself or your story in a new way?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. And it should also be in the chat. Maybe it's not in the chat group, actually.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I might have messed that up. Sorry,
It's
guys.
not.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know that. So the question is, what did you learn from sharing or reflecting that helped you understand yourself in a new way? Or to understand the story that you told in a new way? And I'll put it in the right chat box. Thanks for letting me know. Kyler, that's you. Hi, Kyler. This is the first time I've seen
Hi.
you. No, it's nice to meet you face to face. I was like, who is this
Yeah.
person who's
I didn't have my camera on earlier because I was like backlit, so I just looked like a shadow. Very
No,
scary.
you're totally fine. You're perfect. Nice to
Um,
meet you.
yeah, it's great to be back. I had an experience of just kind of feeling like everyone in my group was sort of a professional in the same industry. Like we all have had, our toes in the healthcare industry in some way. Some of us like fully diving in. I don't see patients, but I work in medical communications. And I actually felt a very deep sense of solidarity with everyone else, just because we all kind of have the same concerns. We're trying to help people, but also we have our own sort of stuff that we have to sort through. And sometimes that can be an awesome thing. Like I wrote about kind of feeling powerless in a lot of ways. And, like, how can I help people when I can't even help myself with these same issues? I think a lot of people go through that when you work in healthcare because you see people who are so much like you, who are suffering, and sometimes it feels too close to home and it can be really upsetting. But also like having that experience of being in someone's shoes or like really listening, like actively listening, came up in what someone else shared, and just trying to balance that with your own experience, I think is like quite universal for people who are deeply empathetic.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Kyler.
I would also love to chime in. So being a doctor and seeing a lot of like ups and downs, deaths, celebrations, it kind of makes you sometimes detach from the humanistic aspect of medicine that we talk about because it's all about humans that we are dealing with. So when I went through all from in my breakout room about everyone, it kind of like made me feel secure and safe to discuss what I want to help change in the society or the way we perceive healthcare, make it a safe place. So when I heard from Kyler, from Miriam, from Mark about what their notions are and what they want to change in the society or what is their aim, it made me feel like, okay, I am in a safe space and we all want this exact same thing. It's just the way we are putting it out, it's just the way we are contributing that is different. So now, whenever I'm going to interact with anyone at that level in different fields of healthcare, I would be like in a better place to discuss these things about what I feel and what I do.
Right. Awesome, Swati. Thank you so much.
I think in our group, it was more about, at least I feel it like making more connections, like stories connecting us in making, like we were talking about being like universal, like having the same, not stories, but feelings, like things we are living, and the suffering, the joy, and it kind of get a sense of universal and make us all in a way the same, but in the same time, I don't know, unique, if it makes sense.
Kind of like the speaker of the poem had that universal level and a very unique level too. And you see both of those things happening. Very cool.
Yeah.
I think part of what I was kind of getting from our group is that, we're kind of like more than just our lineage, and those that are before us kind of giving us these other gifts that become our power, and how we utilize that now, just not for ourselves, but in a sense of honor of them and others, where I'm able to freely move, where I am able to recognize love and suffering and being powerful and vulnerable and all of these things at once. And so it just really kind of had me take it all in and just realize that, right, I'm more than just my lineage. I am the gifts that they were given, I've been given. And for me to kind of honor them by using those gifts.
Great, Daniel. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share a last thought? Something they learned about themselves or their stories? All right, then. Oh, please, Catherine.
Yeah, it was lovely to see also Carolina and Daniel again, because I haven't seen them for ages. And it was, me, Julia, I love the lists. So it was very easy for me to do the second one. But I listed all these things, and it was just really awesome the way Daniel and Catalina were able to put shape and meaning to them. That's what I thought was really beautiful. As both Catalina and Daniel said, it could have just simply been a list of things, but they both put a really beautiful interpretation and brought it all together. I really, really appreciated that.
I love that. And I love how when that happens, it never really lands in this, for me at least, whenever someone looks at my work really closely with attentive and generous eyes, and then they reflect it back to me in a new way that I wouldn't have anticipated. I didn't see it there. It never feels like it wasn't there originally. It feels like they're unearthing something that was there all along, right? Like when you're really generous and really attentive, it feels like people are mining away at the thought that you yourself actually had and helping you realize it in a bigger way. So I love it when that happens.
That's exactly it. It was really lovely.
Yeah.
I'm even getting little tears in my eyes.
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know we're 2 minutes over. I have one last very quick thing to share with you guys, which is just a very, very short poem by the same Jane Hirshfield. We began with a poem of beginnings. This is a poem of two endings, and I'll read it to you now. Everything has two endings: a horse, a piece of string, a phone call, before a life, air, and after. As silence is not silence, but a limit of hearing. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, for listening with us today, for hearing us today. Hopefully we'll see you next month. Stick around if you want to chat. I loved having you all. Thanks for all of your thoughts and generosities this class.
Thank you as well.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question for you,
Thank
Julia, if you
you.
don't
Thanks,
mind staying
Julia.
on.
Thank you.
Hey, Tyler. Go for it whenever you're ready. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. I have questions about your coaching, like professional coaching, because I love the job that I'm in right now, but I don't get to do any writing. And I really would like to find something like I don't really want to freelance. Freelancing seems like it's like dog eat dog, and I'm really like not about that. Like I would rather do something where like it's kind of more guaranteed versus that sort of like, whoa, like, am I going to be able to make rent this month with how many people are asking me to write articles and stuff? So I don't plan on quitting my day job, but I want to see, you know, like, would you uh, be up for just kind of like working with someone, not necessarily on like like a more specific sort of writing career that would be like separate from what I'm doing professionally?
Oh, of course. So what kind of writing are you interested in doing? What genre or field?
Um, I it's hard because I know that these don't sell as well, but I would love to do a short story collection that is sort of like it would be fiction, but still sort of like based in the sciences. I love kind of those intersections of fiction and like interpersonal relationships that also have a relationship with the natural world in some way. I love mythology and things like that. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out. I don't know if you know the author Patrick Lawler. I'm going to put this in the chat. Anyone who hasn't heard of him, um, he is incredible. I have met him personally. He has a short story collection that I just adore. It's called The Meaning of If. Um, and just so many good things in there. He's really like an inspiration to me. So I would love to do something like that. Like I would love to work
Cool.
on a book. I just don't know. I don't know where I would pitch it. Like I have no details right now, but
Yeah. Well, absolutely. This is actually exactly the kind of thing that I love to do, and I will order that book and read it too. I love good short stories.
yeah.
And I also love fiction rooted in the sciences. I love science fiction too, but I love there's something about literary fiction that's focused on the natural physical world that's very appealing to me as well. What I typically do when I do private coaching, it typically falls in one of two camps, or at least knowing which camp you are leaning toward tells me what hat to wear as we're doing the work together. Usually it's in one camp, I put my narrative medicine hat on, where everything that you write is always already perfect. And what we're really doing as we're reading or studying poetry or philosophy or art together is mining those other sources for ideas that we can then use for our own writing, and we can just use it as self-exploration. We can see where it goes, what new things we can learn about ourselves or our worlds, but not with the idea of making writing not with the idea of honing our craft, not with the idea of making it publishable or better. In the other camp, we have folks who I see specifically just for editing and just for getting this thing ready to publish, getting a collection together, getting the essay, in the right spot for publication. And that just tells me that I put a little bit more of a critical hat on, and we work on it in a little bit of a different way. And then I have people who go back and forth. We get very artsy, and narrative medicine-y until we find the thing we want to write about, and then we switch to our editing hat. So, but absolutely, that sounds super fun to me. If you have some ideas, or if you already have some things that you're working on, what I would suggest is we just set up a call. You send me one thing in advance, I'll read it through, and then we'll just talk about it. And we might actually look for other resources or other speakers or voices from other artworks, other fiction writers that might be able to guide us in another direction. So we might actually use some of the narrative medicine stuff that we do here as we kind of, either continue your project or refine your project.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I also just I love the idea of just having an accountability buddy to like make me write it and actually go over it, because like if I don't have somebody holding me to this is why I miss grad school so much, because it kept me on deadlines, and now I'm just completely unmoored. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to actually finish something, but that'd be great.
Totally resonates with me. Somebody once told me that all graduate school is good for are deadlines and a reading list for the rest of your life. Both of those things feel very accurate to me. What did you study in grad school?
I went for science writing at Johns Hopkins, so it was like exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah, it was an amazing program.
So cool.
So
Oh,
yeah,
Kyler, I'd love to work with you. Gosh, just to be able to sit and pick your brain for an hour sounds like a blast. So just let me know
yeah.
when you're ready, and I can
Okay,
send you some available times.
okay, that'd be fantastic. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'm
Okay,
gonna head off.
okay,
I'll say,
Catherine.
yeah, great to see you. And just to say, Anna sends her love. You know, she's in India.
Oh my gosh, she
Yeah,
told me
she's
she was
back
in
in
Scotland,
India.
but I didn't know
Yeah,
she was going back to India.
yeah, no, nor did Daniel or Catalina. So yeah, she's having a lovely time. So she was really sorry to
Oh,
miss it. But as Swati says, it's like 3 in the morning. Gosh, imagine Swati's tuning in from India.
oh my gosh, Swati, it's 3 in the morning for you?
Yeah, it
Oh
is. Is
my
that kind
word.
of
Thank you
Where
so
are you
much for
in
joining me.
whereabouts do you live, Swati?
I live in the eastern part of India,
Oh yeah, that's
the eastern side.
okay. Okay, no, my daughter is in India at the moment, but she usually does these workshops, and actually, Kyler, she works with Julia, so and does the coaching, so she absolutely adores it.
She's a
She's a
wonderful,
fantastic coach.
wonderful poet.
Fantastic.
And
What
just
did
to
you
say,
say your daughter's name is?
Anna,
Oh, okay,
Anna.
yes, okay. I remember her from last time. Yeah,
Oh,
she's
maybe
awesome.
she was in it from last time. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just my last thing is, all through that poem, I was thinking of this book I read by an Irish writer called Ronan Hessian, called Ghost Mountain. Have you heard of it?
Ghost
He's
Mountain.
a, yeah,